Morning, everybody. I'm Fat Cat. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I want to give you some more tips and tricks and some information on making some hotshot money. What I want to talk to you about today is something that's actually pretty darn important, and it's getting paid. Because at some point, you're probably going to end up hauling something for free. And I'm going to give you some information as far as how to avoid that. So let's kind of jump right into this. Now, when you're new to the hotshotting business, you're really not sure what's going on. Your general perception is you're moving freight from point A to point B. You're picking it up in a certain spot and you're dropping it off in another spot. And even though that's really important part of the process, it's a pretty small part of the process. The most important part of the process is your ability to do math and your ability to do paperwork, because your paperwork is how you get paid. Not getting the stuff from point A to B. You can haul stuff from point A to B and still not get paid. Okay? So there are some things that I've learned as times went on as to how to mitigate some of this. Number one, I would only do brokered loads. That's pretty important, because if it's a brokered load and they decide not to pay, you can actually file it on their bond, because brokers have to put up a bond. And guess what? You're going to get paid, okay, at some point. It'll take a little bit of legwork, but you will get paid. One of the types of loads that I've done a few of them, and I will never do another one again, is a COD load. Now, COD loads, these are people that generally don't receive loads very often, or they don't ship loads very often. And they've usually got fleas. I think that's the best way to put it. There's always a problem. Either there's a problem with them loading it, or even worse, there's a problem with them offloading it. I've had it both ways, and either way, it's a huge time suck. One COD load I picked it up somewhere in Chicago and hauled it down to Houston. And when I showed up, they wrote me a check in Chicago when they put it on my trailer, which I was new and starting out, and I just thought, okay, well, this is cool. I'm already paid. But when I got to Houston to offload it, the people that I showed up to have them pull it off there, for some reason they thought it was my responsibility to get it off the trailer. Yeah. So I ended up having to sit there about 6 hours waiting for them to find a forklift that they could get shipped out to themselves, that they could pull it off my truck. Yeah, big problem, big problem. And then I had another COD load that the check wasn't any good. It was not any good. So after a few of these COD loads, I just stayed the hell away from them. That's pretty important. And what I've figured out with COD loads is, like I said, there's a problem. And the problem can be anything. Either the person doesn't ship a lot of the product, or the person that it's going to doesn't receive a lot of the product. And that's why it's a COD load. So I stay away from them. I definitely do. Now, a really important part of you getting paid is if you go through a broker to get your loads. If it's a brokered load through the load board. Now, what the load boards can do is, if you're depending on what package you're signed up for, is you can actually check that broker's credit score. That's right. Now, this is really, really important, because brokers have a credit score. I've booked loads, and Then I'll call my factoring company, which is how I get paid, and I'll say, hey, what about this guy's credit? And they'll run his MC number. And they'll say, I've had them come back and say, no, we can't get this financed, this broker financed because he's got bad credit. And if they've got bad credit, there's a real good chance you're going to be hauling that load for free. So, or maybe they've got they're such a new brokerage that they don't have a lot of credit. Okay, that is possible also. So then what you got to do is you got to call that broker back and go, hey, I can't get you financed. Can you pay with a credit card? And a lot of the newer ones, people that are new to the industry, they understand, and they'll say, yeah, sure, here's my credit card number. And then you can go ahead and get paid that way. But you always want to call your factoring company and check the credit rating of the broker that you get the load through. Now, this is really important because what you want to do is you want to call and book that load first, okay? Because it's easier to call the guy back and say, I can't haul this for you and pull off the load than it is to check his credit, then try to call and get the load and the load be gone, okay? So you always want to call and book the load first, then check the broker's credit, and if it's not any good, give them a call back and go, hey, can you pay with a credit card, or, how can we get paid? Try to work that out. So that's pretty important right there. So, going through a broker is actually pretty important. Now, at one time, I would pick up some product around Chicago, going down to Houston for my home run when I was going home every 3 or 4 weeks. And it got to where that I'd done enough business with them that I could deal with those people directly. Now, I'd done a lot of business with them, and I knew their money was good. But when you take a chance on a load that's not brokered, usually it's not if it's not when you're not going to get paid. It's a matter of if you're not going to get paid or not. I mean, because you just don't know. So initially starting out, you want to make sure that you try to stick with the brokered loads. Like I said, they've got a bond. If they don't want to pay, you can file it on their bond and then you'll still get paid. And then you need to have a pretty good factoring company. Some of you may not even know what a factoring company is. Okay, so here's the short version of that. The factoring company will buy your BOLs they'll do it for like 3 cents on the dollar. In other words, they pay you 97% of the BOL and they keep 3% for themselves. Now, the advantage to this is you are usually paid within 24 hours. Yeah, that's kind of handy. That beats waiting a long time to get paid. Some people, they say, well, we do quick pay. Yeah, that's just one of those things that it's another pain in the ass is what it is. So, I would, you generally call my factoring company, check the broker out, make sure they can get them financed, and if they said, yeah, we can get them financed, then we were good because I already had the load booked. So your factoring company is actually a pretty crucial part of what you do. Now, as part of this whole setup here, you got to be pretty proactive in this business. You can't be lazy. You can't be lazy. And the one thing you got to be proactive about is picking the phone up. Okay. Now, you've heard me say on other videos that you got to pick the phone up and call these people. Stay in constant contact with them. Call them when the load hits your trailer. Tell them what day and time you expect to be there. And then call them the day of delivery. And I would usually call them 4 hours out and 2 hours out. I'd always stay in constant contact because that makes the difference between you get paid. Now, here's the reason why this is really important is because if you have your next load booked and you show up at these people and you haven't called them, there's been more than once that the person that runs the forklift actually went home early. And then you end up having to cancel your second load because you're sitting there for a day or so waiting to get offloaded. So you got to be able to pick the phone up and get a hold of these people. I mean, that's part of getting paid. That is a crucial part of getting paid. If you're lazy and you don't want to pick the phone up and talk to these people, Hotshot is probably not for you. You know, this is a business where you've got to be really proactive, and you've got to be more of an aggressor. You've got to get out there and make it happen. You got to get your money to come to you, instead of just, you know, laying back, letting someone else do your homework. You know, I see on social media all the time, oh, so and so went home early. Now I'm stuck with this load on my trailer for 3 days. When all they had to do was call these people, make contact with them, and arrange for someone to be there to offload them. So, you know, that's part of getting paid. You know, you got to be proactive. So, anyhow, that's a little bit about, you know, getting paid and some of the process. Always try to stick to the brokered loads, unless you've hauled for that company extensively. If you've hauled for them on a regular and frequent basis and they've always paid, there's nothing wrong with picking the phone up saying, hey, I'm in the area, do you have anything going anywhere? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, sure, no problem. Swing by and pick the product up. So there's nothing wrong with that. But you definitely want to make sure that you try in the beginning, stick to the brokered loads. Get you a good factoring company. You can use like iThrive out of Utah. They're a pretty good company. Or you can use RTS. RTS is another popular one. But you definitely want to get a factoring company on board so that they can check these brokers' credit. That's really important because, you know, if you're not using brokered loads and you're definitely not using a factoring company. Now, some people, they're like, oh no, I'm not going to give them 3 cents on a dollar. There's just no way. So it's not, you know, if you're not going to get paid someday, it's just a matter of when you're not going to get paid, because you're going to end up hauling shit for free. And if you like hauling shit for free, you know, there's plenty of it out there to do. You know, there's plenty of free stuff to haul. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you've got your fundamental ducks in a row. You know, stick to the brokered loads. Get with a good factoring company, one with a rate that you can afford, and because they charge, there's a spectrum anywhere from 2% up to 5%. Now there's two different types of factoring. Okay, there is recourse, which means that if for some reason they don't get paid, they take the money back out of your account. Okay. And then there's now usually recourse is like 2%, 2 cents on the dollar. And then there is non-recourse, which is usually like 5%. Now, non-recourse means that once they pay you for that load, if they don't get paid for some reason, then you don't owe them a dime. So it's up to you to figure out which one you would like to go with. I've done both, and you know, I've actually had them call me and say, "Hey, by the way, we never got paid for this. We want our money back." And that's never any fun because then I'm on the phone chasing that money down, calling these people, going, "Hey, listen, you know, we're net 90 here. It's been 90 days, and I need you to give me a credit card number." So, you know, there's different things you can do to mitigate not getting paid. So, one of the first things about getting paid that you really want to be proactive about is showing up on time. Because I have made deliveries that it was in the fine print that if we showed up late, they were going to dock me $100. And $100 on some of these loads is a pretty substantial part of the load. Um, so you want to make sure that you show up on time. You know, that's another part of getting paid. So anyhow, that's just a short snippet of a video about getting paid and how important it is, and you know, some of the differences and things that you can look out for and you can do to make sure that you get paid. So anyhow, I'm Fat Cat, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.